Hi everybody, welcome to Career Chat. I'm Mindy Thomas and I am hosting a new show starting tomorrow, Tuesday at 8 p.m. and Mondays at 11:30 here at RVNTV. On this show, we're going to be interviewing everyday people that have reinvented themselves. They have literally left their jobs, their careers, their bosses, that they could not thrive in that environment anymore, and they decided to take a leap. My hope is that you're inspired by these success stories so that it lights a little fire within you and to help advance your career. My belief is that your career is your business, and it's about time that all of us start acting like we're the CEO. I am honored and privileged to bring on my first guest today, Bob Koch, the alternative career coach of Entrepreneur Source. Welcome to the show, Bob.
Oh, thank you, Mindy. It's my honor and pleasure to be here as well.
Fantastic. I remember 8 years ago when we met, you were in a completely different industry. I was wondering if we could start with what shifted you into this new place of entrepreneurship. What was going on then? And then I thought we could just pop into the present day and what you're doing at Entrepreneur Source.
Sure. Well, I had worked for a company for like 22, 23 years. I got up one day, and I was on the road constantly. And I got up one day and left at 8:30, got in at 9:30, drove 250 miles, and I went, wow, I can't do this. And I was 58 at the time. And I said, I can't do this anymore. And I was very much aligned with what I did. I enjoyed it for the longest time. But then what happens is you start to reach some level of boredom. And that's what there was no room for growth. There was nowhere else for me to do. And I was doing the same thing over and over again. And I loved it. And I said, well, what's wrong with me? There was nothing wrong. I just reached that level of boredom where I had to move on to something else. I had to make some kind of change. So it's a sloppy, awkward process. It is sloppy and awkward because what we have to do is we have to understand that we're going to try to see something that we don't quite do and use our imagination to get there. And that's always a very, very challenging situation, to try to envision yourself doing that something new. And well, what do you do at age 58? You don't go to work for another company because, companies they want a 30-year-old, not a 50-some-year-old person.
Well, in some cases, that's true. I do believe you shouldn't shut the door if you're 64. And I think that in spite of your reinventions, you've really re-engineered your career several times over your lifespan.
Yeah.
And you've been very, very successful. And that industry you were in was the travel industry.
Right.
You were making a lot of money. You loved that work, but at some point you decided, I can't do this anymore. What then did you pursue after you decided, I can't take this anymore?
Well, I started realizing that I needed to do something different. So I started getting my hands on everything that I could read. And I called a friend in Texas who was a consultant. And I said, hey, tell me about being a consultant. Tell me about what you do. He put me in touch with a woman by the name of Judy, who was a coach that helped people find and then fund businesses. But the interesting thing was I started looking businesses that were very unique and very different when I, in fact, had started a coaching program in the last company, and I started coaching the younger salespeople to become better and more proficient. I think sometimes I was getting more out of the program than they were. But I was crafting little experiments. And the way you look at this is like a jigsaw puzzle. But we don't have the end piece. We don't have the picture. We have the pieces, but not the end picture. So one thing sort of led to another, and she started coaching me. And then I realized, wow, what I really wanted to do was coach people. And I needed to get out of sales. I had done it for over 30-some years, and I literally burned out of the whole thing, but I still had an altruistic nature where I wanted to kind of help people because I saw what sometimes corporations do, and between mergers, acquisitions, downsizes, and all the shifts that go on out there. And people have tons of skills, but they don't see how they segue into different businesses.
So Bob, I remembered that you pursued a master's in counseling, and I know in your heart of hearts you're really a helper. So when you started to coach within the company, I think what you're saying is that you didn't realize that right in front of you stood this opportunity for you to pursue, that you are in fact a coach, and now you're going to go into a business coaching other folks. So that brings us to the franchise business, which seems to be a mystery for many of us out here. The questions we ask are, how do you get into it? How much does it cost? Do I have to have $100,000 to invest in a franchise today? I read recently that franchise operations or coaching opportunities are really increasing over the years. There's 750,000 franchise opportunities out there in the U.S., correct?
There's a lot. I mean, you can go on to the internet and see thousands and thousands of business, some good, some not so good. But think of it this way. It's like if you were going to go to court, would you represent yourself?
Absolutely not.
Yes. If you fall into that bottomless pit and you make assumptions, and here's the mind-blowing thing that most people don't realize is the largest franchisee with McDonald's is a vegan.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
He likes the model.
I did not know that.
He doesn't eat so much enamored with the food. He likes the model. So, you know, what you've got to do is look at your skills and what is it that you'd be doing that business would emulate your skills. Because, you know, fear and passion, you know, are opposites. So something you're very passionate about, you can't be afraid of. And I think that's the caveat to this whole thing is, what are you excited about? You know, and for me, it was literally helping people. You know, helping people. I have a virtual office. I got off the road because I was getting burned out from it. And when I understood my criteria, it's like kind of light bulb went off and said, well, what do I have to lose? And if you're successful in a company, would you have that same type of success in a business? That's the key. You know, and that's what I was looking for.
What do you think really distinguishes you against all other franchise coaches out there? Because I can imagine there's a lot of folks doing what you do.
Right. The key to the whole thing is to get a person to a point of clarity. I don't want to sell somebody a business. I want to make sure that, you know, you're finding something that matches up to your income, your lifestyle, your wealth, and your equity, all those things that you would like to kind of accumulate in life or build in life. And if I can get you to that point, and you could say to me, Mindy, I can see myself doing this, I love this, I want to go ahead with it, then our work together has been of fortune and benefit for you. And that's the key, is getting a person to a point of clarity where they can see themselves doing it. It can take 8 weeks, it can take 8 months.
So are you saying then that your expertise and distinction among all the other franchise coaches is that you have a talent for assessing the skills and the value of individuals?
Yes. So my first meeting with a client is I go through their resume. And what I say I do is I reframe their career. I look for those little nuances, those little things that they do so spontaneous, so natural, they may take it for granted. And then I start to download seeing them doing that same function in a business. And an example, I'm working with a gentleman down at Dover Air Force Base. The C5s come in. He assigns the crews to go out and he measures up the talent. So he's got really good management skills, but he's lived 20-some years in the military, so he can't quite see how that segues into the private sector. So it's my job to kind of take those tools and be able to visualize, and then I turn that over to him. Then it becomes his movie to run with it.
And just for our audience clarification, a C-5 is an aircraft?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a big aircraft, is it not?
They move tanks and helicopters in them. It's a monster plane,
Okay, very good, very good. So who is your typical client?
Oh, typical client is, I sort of divide it into two sectors. I do a lot of military work. I go down to Dover Air Force Base, Carlisle War College, and they have a Boots to Business class, and I speak to those veterans who are retiring. St. Joe's has an entrepreneurial jumpstart program. I do a lot of work in speaking there. So that's one sector in terms of the retiring veteran. The other sector is somebody who's about in their 50s, got caught in a merger, and maybe taking a little bit longer to get back into the workforce. But they may have, I asked them the question, have you ever gone into a business and interviewed the owner? And if they come back to me and say yes, they're flirting with this. 80% of the public flirts with the concept of doing something on their own.
Oh.
All right?
Absolutely.
But now to make it happen is always that sloppy, awkward process to get to that point.
Mm-hmm. What is the youngest person, age-wise, that has bought into a franchise opportunity?
26.
26. And all the way up to what age are you working with then?
I've just placed a guy 62 years of age.
Okay. And what if someone is sitting in our audience saying, I would love to be in business for myself, but I don't have much money. Can you put someone into a business? Do they need the dough, the cash, to jump into this?
Well, they need a lot less than they think they do. There's a lot of funding programs that are backed by the federal government, by the SBA, Small Business Administration,
Okay.
that, if you're going to borrow $100,000, you need a cash injection of $11,000.
Okay.
All right, now, once you get that money, if you choose to put that back into your pocket, but that cash injection has to come from you.
Okay.
So there's a lot of misperceptions out there. Misperceptions that most of it is food, when it's not. 5% is food, but 95% of the public perceive it. And there's so many other businesses and unique businesses out there that people would have never realized it's a business. Somebody came in and fixed something for you.
Yes.
And it was a franchise.
What would be an example of that?
Oh, you've got one, my washer and dryer broke. Well, we call him Mr. Applier. The guy.
You called where?
Mr. Appliance.
Oh, Mr. Appliance.
It's a franchise.
Oh, my.
The guy comes out,
Okay.
fixes everything. He has a little tablet. I put my credit card in the tablet, go swipe, and he's out the door.
Wow.
There's no receivables. He's paid on the spot. Their marketing is phenomenal. So, people have different skills, and you always hire to your weakness. So somebody who's not really good at marketing, all right, that's an ideal situation for them. Somebody who's not, because they're going to do the marketing, they're going to get a good search, the phone is going to ring, all right, the person's going to answer the phone, hey, our owner's going to be in your neighborhood Tuesday or Thursday, what would you like? Boom, comes out and performs the service.
So I imagine that you really interviewed that guy when he came to fix your washer and dryer, right?
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to know all about how he liked it, how he was performing in it, and the whole 9 yards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, very interesting. I was wondering if I wanted to start a franchise and I didn't really know what kind of franchise opportunity I would be good at. Are you saying that your assessment process would help me decide how to do that?
It's a peeling of the onion, okay? You don't know what you don't know. So the first interview, we're going to kind of peel it down a little bit. I'm going to send you some assessments. I'm going to send you some quick tests to kind of take. We're building this criteria. I'm building it for you. My third meeting, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to say, you like education, Mindy, you like this, you like that, and I'm going to give you a couple of opportunities that are based on a criteria that we've formulated in a couple of meetings together.
Bob, this is all great stuff. We have to take a break right now. We're going to come back and revisit this very thought. We'll be right back.
Dogs aren't broken. They've simply experienced more life. If they were human, we would call them wise. They would be the ones with tales to tell and stories to write. The ones dealt a bad hand who responded with courage. Do not pity a shelter dog. Adopt one.
Say we've got grit, and we'll take it as a compliment. Because it's our uncommon drive, our spark within, that brings us together and sets us apart. We are temple made. And when others take shortcuts, when others take breaks, when others take the easy way, we take charge.
Add us on social media to watch bloopers, behind-the-scenes footage, previews, and more.
I work 13 hours a day, 6 days a week. So when I'm off the clock, I gotta get stuff done. So when I need a snack, I need something healthy, tasty, and easy to eat. Like wonderful pistachios without the shells. They're protein-powered, delicious, and great on the go. And that's perfect for me. Thanks, Liz. A woman without a lot of time.
Whether you're a gourmet cook or just want to eat like one, visit Rostelli Market Fresh, your home for the freshest, locally sourced ingredients to please everyone who loves great food. Our organic meats, quality seafood, and free-range poultry are cut fresh to order. Chefs create culinary-inspired prep foods made fresh every day, which pair nicely with our vast selection of fine wines and spirits. Choose from handmade pastas, artisan cheeses, organic produce, and grocery items, all from the finest purveyors. Rostelli Market Fresh, from our family to yours.
RVNTV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVNTV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Mindy Thomas, the host of Career Chat, and today we're speaking with Bob Koch, the alternative career coach of Entrepreneur Source. We were just speaking, Bob, about the assessment process that you do for every individual that contacts you about a possible franchise opportunity. And so it seems like in your mind's eye, you take in all the data and then more. Is that right?
Yeah, it's an ongoing process, because when you start to peel down the onion, you know, and I give people a couple of opportunities. And the way that you look at it is like in the movie Karate Kid, you know, he says wax on and wax off. And every time that you have a contact with one of my referral partners, you not only learn a little bit about the business, but you learn a little bit about yourself. And there's a couple learning curves that take place. One of them is about the business, and you'll learn a lot about how businesses are structured. But you'll also learn, you know, what is it that's important to me? How do I build that criteria? And for me, when I realized I could do this virtually, I have a place in Florida, so I will do it from Florida. I could do it from anywhere. And I like the speaking engagement, so I get out and I get eyeball to eyeball with people because I enjoy that. And I was able to kind of create the painting that I wanted to paint. I was able to be able to kind of do that. Now, not a lot of businesses allow you that. They're a little bit more rigid. But this allowed me the autonomy, the creativity, and that's really kind of what made sense for me. So as a person goes through this, what happens is one business starts to align with what they're all about as they start to discover it, and one starts to fall away. And that's perfectly normal, because contrast helps you define. I give you vanilla, chocolate, or strawberry. Well, how did you like the chocolate? How did you like the strawberry? Okay, and then we talk about that. And then there's different scenarios that seem to unfold. One of the key points, though, is when I'm working with people, I say, look, you have to have your spouse involved, or your significant other, emotionally, financially, all right, or physically. Physically, they have to work in the business with you. Financially, they're going to be a part of it, or they're going to cheerlead you and be emotionally. One of those, two of those, three of those. If not, it's really going to be hard for you to go ahead.
So if I wanted to have a conversation with you, I need to have my significant other or my spouse with me when we do that.
At some point in time.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm curious about the training that's involved when you buy a franchise. What does that look like? Is that a week? Is that 2 weeks? Is it a month of training? I mean, how do I know? I have an ops background, but I don't know anything about the recruiting business. How much training's involved?
Well, I knew nothing about franchising before I got in.
Okay.
I knew literally zero about it. So what happens is when a person says to me, hey, I want to go ahead with it, and then they sign the agreement, what happens is they start an onboarding process, and that could be about 6 weeks.
Oh.
All right, there's lots of forms work, there could be some audios, there could be some webinars, things. So they're going to start before they go to either a 1 to 2 week training on location, and then some franchisees have their business development person literally come into your backyard and work with you hand to hand.
I see.
From there, there's ongoing webinars, there's ongoing scenarios, those type of things take place. They have all annual conventions where you get to meet all the other franchisees in the system. And see, it's the high wire act with a safety net.
Yes, I love it.
Because you're going to have other people to support you. What you don't know, somebody else in your system knows to educate you. So you're in business for yourself, but you're not alone.
So that's a big difference between launching your own private business where there's no support and then launching a franchise where there's a tremendous amount of support. And that sounds fantastic. It sounds like a wonderful, wonderful network because you're not alone.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a solopreneur, Bob, but you have support. I'm a solopreneur with no support, making it out here. So it's been a wonderful journey for me being a solopreneur, and I've enjoyed speaking to you about this. I'm curious about the Clint Eastwood syndrome that we spoke about when we chatted last week about you coming on the show. Can you tell our audience what that's about?
Yeah, the Clint Eastwood syndrome is it's what happens in companies. You sign on, you're an IT guy or a chain supply guy, you're in marketing, and what happens is you evolve out of that role. But when I say Clint Eastwood, you think of two character roles, correct?
Correct.
You think of cowboy or cop.
Yes.
And that's where we get locked in companies. But our psychic and our career development, we move out beyond that, but companies don't see that. And that becomes very frustrating because that's like driving a car down the road and your wheels aren't aligned and the car is shimmying. And that's what happens with people's careers. They shimmy a little bit. So when you're aligned with something, all right, I think it's where you're going to perform the best and you're going to be the happiest. And it's not about the money, it's about doing something that makes sense and values to you. So that's what I call the Clint Eastwood syndrome. It's just how companies freeze us in those roles when we literally have outgrown them.
What's interesting is when I Googled a percentage of happily employed people in the U.S., guess what number came up?
Oh, I'm sure it was high.
It was high.
Yeah.
Do you believe that 85% of the American public is happily employed? I know they're employed, but are they happily employed?
Yeah.
Do you believe that?
I do, yeah. Because companies change, management change, people get stuck in private companies where there's no chance for growth. They're at the glass ceiling, or they're in this kind of work-life misbalance, okay? They're in and out of airports, staying at Hampton Inns and Holiday Inns, and they don't get to see their kids. They don't get to see their family.
Well, I don't know if this is fake news, but it was 85% are happily employed, not unhappily employed. And so when I'm thinking about your coaching practice and the numbers of people that you speak to, who are those people? Because they're unhappily employed, yes?
Well,
what does that look like?
In terms of the profile?
Yes, why are they looking at franchise opportunities?
Because there's some people for years have had a burning desire and they always keep saying, I want to do something on my own. I want to do something on my own. But they don't know how to start.
That's $1 million question, Bob.
That's the place to start. So they have this burning itch, but oh my God, there's no course in high school that teaches entrepreneurship. There's no class out there that sort of guides them on that footpath. And then somehow they connect with me or I connect with them and I invite them to work with me, okay? Because you can't be like the 10-year-old kid walking out the door and mom says to do your homework. You have to voluntarily come with an interest to figure out, what else could I do? Or what should that look like? What should that feel like? You know, what gets you out of bed in the morning? You know, what gets you excited to do something new and different? Now, if you can catch that wave of doing something new and exciting, I think that's what you need to, that's the intuitive hunch you pay attention to. You follow those kind of clues.
When you look over the tenure of your career, I'm very curious whether you've been happily employed for most of your work life, most of your career. The reinventions that you engineered yourself, do you feel like you were happily employed for 20 years in the travel business or 30 years in the travel business, then as a franchise coach? Have you experienced job satisfaction over your lifetime?
Yes, I have, but to a certain point, I've outgrown the jobs, okay? And I've changed 3 times.
Yes.
So it's always been an adventure to try to imagine what you're going to do next. So it's always kind of a venture scenario. But the key that I want to leave for the audience is, are you moving away from something or moving towards something? They are big differences. I left a job because the firm wasn't ethical, and I moved to another firm only to get merged and laid off. I moved towards something because it made sense. So there's a big difference. People say, hey, I'm not in a good job, and they take the next job just to get away.
Yes.
That's a wrong, I wouldn't say wrong position. That may not have a favorable outcome because you're moving away. You've got to be pulled toward. What's attracting you? What's the gravitational pull toward whatever it is you're looking to do? That's a clue.
Bob, you have a lot of courage, and there's a lot of grit. Are you a former military guy? No. I don't know. But you have a fire in your belly, and it's so inspiring.
Thank you.
I really am enjoying this interview with you. And I think it does take a lot of grit to make these moves. What can you tell our audience if they should contact you and they're sitting on the edge and they're not sure they have the courage to pull the trigger and go into business for themselves? There's no obligation if they contact you. In fact, his coaching is free. I mean, who can beat that? But you know that it takes a lot to do this. So, what can you say to our audience?
Sure. It's fear. And fear is false ego appearing real.
I love it.
And what happens is, you know, we're back in the land of saber-toothed tigers when we had to protect our family, and it's a left brain type of thinking. So I've got to get you into the right side of your brain. And I heard this years ago, and it made such brilliant success. Everybody that starts a business looks at the ceiling, has sleepless nights, okay? And successful people learn to deal with the uncomfortableness of fear.
Yes.
If you become comfortable being uncomfortable, because everybody, 100% of the people have to go through this wall of fire. They have to push through it for some way. And if you can get through the wall and break through, that's the key takeaway. Is learning to deal with the fear. And fear is a natural human instinct with all of us. But successful people learn to conquer it.
Yes. Well, I want to thank everyone for watching Career Chat today, and thank my special guest, Bob. It's been fantastic to reconnect with you and learn more about your alternative career coaching. Please tell our audience how they can contact you if they're interested.
Sure. You can reach me on my cell phone at 610-299-3310. That's 610-299-3310. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you just typed in Bob Koch Jr., I'll show right up on LinkedIn as your first entry there. Or bkoch at bkoch.esourcecoach.com, and you can find me that way. And if you'd like, we'll go to a 30-minute interview and figure out if we should work together or not, and there's no obligation.
Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.